Hey there everybody, Mazarok here, and today I'm going to talk about a subject that's come up in my stream, I've seen on Reddit, forums, and the whole thing are the Dragonflight Dungeons in Season 2 too hard? Before we do get into it though, please do like, comment, and subscribe. Go such a long way towards helping out the channel. There is a Patreon link down below with early access videos, exclusive trinket reviews, and a bunch of stuff. Tank Club guides, lots of stuff there. There's merch for sale as well. Check that on the screen now. There's t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, stickers, a bunch of stuff. Check it out. Discord, come join a wonderful community full of great people. And of course, Twitch, come on by, check me stream. Have a blast doing that, running keys, and raid all the time. So, alright, let's get into it. Are the Dragonflight Season 2 Dungeons too hard? No. They are not. While there have been some egregious kind of outliers, let's say, there have been certain bosses that were immediately tuned way too high. And that was just obvious. By quite a few key levels, you would get to a certain encounter, a certain boss, and you'd just be like, whoa! And you'd find yourself just trying to find ways to survive it. And if that answer is blow everything and hopefully you get it, probably, yeah, a little bit too high, but those were tuned within the first couple of days. Now, what I think one of the problems here is we as a community, we as a player base, just got finished Season 1, where we went into 16s, 12s, 20s, whatever it is you play, and play regularly at your comfort level, and you could just go in and crush them, because we were geared. Guess what? Just because you were geared at the end of Season 1, does not mean you are geared, like if you were geared for a 20 at Season 1, does not necessarily mean that you are geared for a 20 at Season 2. There is a lot that goes into it. Not to mention, the dungeons are brand new to us. We are learning every single one of these dungeons, because while we may know the basic mechanics from having run them at Mythic 0 or anything like that, certain abilities scale differently with key level. So what happens is a very innocuous kind of run-of-the-mill ability that a mob may do or a boss may do that doesn't matter in a Mythic 0, as it gets scaled, really becomes a problem. Not to mention, I will admit, Blizzard kind of trolled at least the tank player base this week by doing fortified bolstering on week 2, because that is adding to the new level of complexity. Because fortified bolstering is one of the harder tank weeks to kind of do, right? You go into freehold and you're used to quadruple, quad pulling everything. You might want to double think about doing that, because an enforcer that has 10 stacks of bolstering, while their HP might not be increased anymore, their DPS it very much is. The damage against you very much is. And we have to temper our expectations towards what it is. So part of it is some people in the community need to, A, get good, understand that because you were geared then, does not mean you are geared for the content now, and because you finished off a season doing 16s, 18s, 20s, whatever key level you were doing, does not necessarily mean that you can jump in on week 1 or 2 of a new season and do the exact same thing. There's a reason our keystones were degraded by 10 levels. To some people, that was way too much, but to some people, that was definitely the right amount, because I've seen a lot of pugs in the last week and a half, let's say. Yeah, 9 days. 9-10 days, quite literally just forget how to play. Like, absolutely forget what a mechanic is, what anything is. And we all don't know the best way to clear these dungeons yet. Everyone's still figuring that out. So you can't look at a mechanic and be like, that's way too hard, I don't get it. Like, it's just impossible, when it might just be a simple line of sight mechanic that you just don't know about yet. Or it's something that needs to be stopped. If you take Alderman, we have seen, because we prio the really big golems first in Alderman, in those packs, and they have the little dwarves or whatever that do the Hail of Stone cast. And when it gets bolstered 3-4 times, those things hurt. And I see people with stuns, quite literally not being used, movement displacement abilities not being used, getting absolutely wrecked by these and being like, man, the damage is tuned way too high. No, it's not. You just need to stun the damn thing, right? We have to ask ourselves, When we start a new dungeon, what's the priority kick? What's the priority stop? What's the mechanic here? What ability do we need to make sure doesn't go off? Because when those things happen, the dungeons get insanely easier. I have had some incredibly smooth runs, and I have had some absolutely nightmarish runs, and a lot of that is just obviously people not knowing the mechanics. And I don't fault the player base for not knowing the mechanics. We're 9 days into a season. Not everyone can know every mechanic of every dungeon 9 days into a season, and we are going to learn the better ways to pull things, the better ways to place things as well. So when a tank does a pull, what's the best place to stand? Is there a frontal? Is there not? The amount of demon hunters I've seen die to frontals is actually crazy, and I can't really say much against it because they're playing, a lot of them are playing momentum right now, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a havoc scientist. But at the same time, like, they need to be aware that frontals exist. Guess what? There's frontals in dungeons. And maybe don't be in front of the tank until you know if it has a frontal or not. There's a lot of different things at play here, but I don't think the dungeons are tuned too high. Like I said at the start of the video, there were a couple of egregious bosses that definitely needed some toning down, but it's not that bad. All right, you just don't know the mechanic. Tettles had just did a video that I watched as well, and I really, really liked it. And he was talking about a Reddit post where they were talking about Warlord Sarga, and he was explaining what was happening on the mechanic, and I'm like, as it was written on the Reddit guide, and I'm like, that they already screwed up the mechanic. As I did in my Warlord Sarga guide, if you're struggling to find a gold pile as the magma shield is already going off, you've already screwed up the mechanic. Does that mean that boss is too hard? No, you need to learn how to do the mechanic right. You need to have a gold pile ready to use before she even casts Magma Shield. And if you're not doing that, it's not that the shield does too much damage, is you, the player, are letting it go off for way too long and allowing that damage to ramp up, where it doesn't need to happen. There is a difference between avoidable damage that we are going to learn as a community how to deal with quickly and easily and make those runs smooth, but you have to ask yourself, is the mechanic too hard, or am I just not getting it? Anyway, that's my 2 cents. What do you guys think? I'd love to hear from you. Are you guys enjoying Season 2? I am. Every single time I go into a dungeon or I finish a dungeon, I'm like, man, Thundering being gone is so good. I'm having a blast. Come on by, check me out on stream. Thank you again for my patrons for making videos like this happen. Have yourselves a good one. Happy tanking. Bye.